and congratulations on making it all the way through my senior thesis. I have spent the past 9 months / year thinking about the ways in which we can reimagine burnout and use disability justice frameworks to move through burnout. And I kind of talked about all of this at the beginning of my workshop, which is a separate video that you can see, but I kind of just wanted to go over some of the major points that I came away with from this thesis. The first of which, and the most important one, being that burnout is both collective and inevitable, and as marginalized people living under systems of capitalism, white supremacy, cis heteropatriarchy, and settler colonialism, as well as living within institutions such as universities, we are all going to experience burnout at some point. I think that everyone I know is already burnt out, and all of the impacts of living under these systems of marginalization and oppression have only been exacerbated by living in a pandemic. One of the biggest questions I kept coming back to through this whole process was, will I ever be not burned out? And what are the steps that I can take to move out of burnout? There was a TikTok that was going around about a couple months ago that was by, I think, a therapist who was saying that it could take 3 to 5 years to recover from burnout. But after conversations with Lydia Brown, Mel Chen, Noor, and also coming out of my workshop and through this entire process, I don't really think that's true. The conclusion that I've come to is that I am burnt out. Burnout is a collective and inevitable thing. But also, I don't really think that burnout is something that we can just climb out of. Maybe this is really pessimistic, and maybe these are just my personal experiences, but I don't really know if I'm going to be not burnt out anytime soon. Even though I'm a graduating senior and I'm about to leave the institution, I still live under these systems of oppression, and I still live in a global pandemic. The thing that is at the heart of all of this is that the only way to move through the world while you are burnt out is by implementing disability justice frameworks into daily actions and practices, but also into the structures of your lives and organizations. That, I think, has been the most powerful, terrifying, and transformative thing that I've done over the past year. Since my hand started hurting, I've had to actually enact all of the radical principles that I and my friends have been talking about for the past several years. And it has been one of the hardest fucking things I have ever had to do. Actually living out your radical relationships is incredibly difficult and very messy, and has made me grapple with how difficult it is to take yourself outside of the structures of academia and to try to actually stop perpetuating these cycles of productivity and this culture of urgency that exists in academia and in activism, and that exists in my head. I have had to rely on friends for almost every household task. I have had to stop doing a lot of things. I've had to shift labor onto other people. And I've had to have really hard conversations with my friends and my family about our relationships to each other and how they are impacted by power dynamics that come from actually having to enact interdependency. I came into this project thinking that I would be maybe able to use my hands again in a couple of months. I don't really know when I'll be able to use my hands again. I still don't know what's happening to my body. And the doctors still don't know. And the only way that I've gotten through any of this is because I have been able to like have conversations with disabled, queer and trans people of color and Asian Americans, and have been able to lean on my friends and lean into interdependency and actually think about what it means to enact things like the tire method that Noor talks about in one of our interviews, where people actually tap out when they need to and then tap back in when they need to. Even last semester, when I thought that I had stopped doing a lot of things, I was still doing a lot of emotional labor, and I didn't realize that until this semester. It's really weird to be on my way out, especially when I understand that universities are all disabling institutions. And I think that I'm going to try to take my time outside of academia as a space to heal from the fact that over the past 15 years of my life, I have been told over and over again that I should push myself to be really productive, and also to embrace disembodiment, to understand that sometimes my body would just break down, and that was okay. And it's been really difficult to step away from that. But it's what happened. I had a moment over the time that I spent at the Association for Asian American Studies conference, when I was in a workshop where we were talking about woundedness and how it can kind of be a force that disrupts capitalism and disrupts this myth of the model minority from Jim Lee's new book. And we came to this moment where people were talking about the hypothetical of what happens when you are so wounded that you must stop. And it made me realize that, didn't make me realize anything actually. I think I was just shocked and really trying to process the fact that like people were talking about how scared they would be if they suddenly had to stop doing everything. But that's my reality. I didn't have a choice. It's been over a year since I've been able to have full capacity or be fully able-bodied or partially able-bodied, and it's been a very transformative year. And I think that I'm very proud of the project that I've created, and I'm very proud of what I've done, but I'm also so tired and so ready to rest. I think that over the past semester, I really had a lot of time to take my work from this project that it was in the fall, which was just analyzing my own experiences and situating all of this stuff within the context of Davidson, and then taking it out to conversations with other student activists and organizers and disability justice scholars. And then I had the absolute privilege of putting together 2 workshops, co-facilitating one on sloth professoring and failure in the academy, and then facilitating my senior thesis workshop about a week ago. The first one was at the Association for Asian American Studies conference, but the last one was a week ago. And the reason that I wanted to do a workshop and the reason that I did a YouTube channel is not just because of the accessibility for myself, but also because I care so deeply about not having people like stuck, about helping people get out of this rat race that we are in. And I know that the most radical thing that we can do is to embrace disability justice frameworks as we like build a revolutionary future. I am so glad that I was able to go to facilitate workshops and to have conversations and to think about communal theorizing, because the most important thing that I learned out of all of these conversations is that capitalism and the university really profit off of us thinking of ourselves as individual, independent, disembodied figures who are experiencing burnout because of a lack of our own boundaries. But instead, we are all experiencing burnout because our boundaries are constantly pushed past what our capacities are. And the idea of having full capacities is false anyway, because no one actually has full capacity. That's just a myth made up by capitalism. And the only way to get through burnout and a pandemic and academia is through communal theorizing and community and interdependence and creating spaces for yourself and your friends that are full of joy and being able to tap in and tap out as you need to. So I hope that you also take all of those things away from this thesis, and I guess wish me luck as I hopefully have some time to heal while not processing all of my experiences under the guise of a video camera.